I will consider ordinary Kripke frame. So such relational structure, one non-empty set, a binary relation on it. And we will use this structure to interpret, as it is usually the case in standard modal logic, two languages, a propositional language called modal language and a first-order language. The propositional language contains only one box, but the things I will say can be also extended to the multimodal case. And I will insist that if there is a formula with some propositional variable occurring in it, I will write like this. And for the first order language, it is as usual. But I consider only one predicate of variety 2, which is, of course, which denotes the accessibility relation in Kripke frame. So in these two languages, we say in the standard way, in which case a frame validates a modal formula, and in which case a frame, considered as a first order structure, validates a formula containing some free variable. And the standard correspondence problem is the following. Sometimes it happens that a modal formula corresponds to a first order sentence. It means that for all Kripke frame, the modal formula is valid in the frame if and only if the sentence is true in that frame. For example, this modal formula is well known to correspond to reflexivity, and the following one is well known to correspond to transitivity. In fact, this was already observed by Kripke in the early 1960s, that is to say, at the beginning of the relational semantic of modal logic. So we have this correspondence between a modal formula and a first order sentence. But we can consider also the point of view of a modal formula. By the way, Greek letters denote modal formula, to remember. And uppercase letter from the Latin alphabet denote first order formula or sentences. Okay, we can take the point of view of the modal formula and say that it is first order definable if, for some sentence, it corresponds to it. This is the point of view of the modal formula. And the point of view of the first order condition is to say it is modally definable if there exists a modal formula phi which corresponds to it. So it is the standard definition coming from correspondence theory, and there is book, handbook chapters. I will not introduce the topic completely. Just I want to address the following two problems. The first order definability problem. It is a decision problem. As input, we receive a modal formula, and we have to decide to determine if it is first order definable. So does it exist a modal formula which corresponds to this modal formula? And the other problem, the modal definability problem, another decision problem. It receives as input a first order sentence A, and we have to decide if there exists a modal formula which corresponds to it. It was quickly discovered that some modal formula like this one are not first order definable. You can find the proof in these two papers. And for the McKinsey formula, its non-first order definability comes from the fact that it does not follow the downward Löwenheim-Skolem theorem. And so it was decided that maybe for a fragment of modal logic, and here I present a small fragment of the so-called Salvist formulas. So very simple Salvist antecedents are conjunction and diamond, constructed with conjunction and diamond. Positive formula are constructed without the negation. And a very simple Salvist formula is of that kind, where phi is an antecedent and psi is a positive formula. And for the Salvist fragment of the modal language, it is known there is algorithm to produce the first order sentence which correspond to it. And also the modal formula that we have started from is canonical with respect to the class of frame satisfying this condition. For example, the condition of reflexivity and transitivity are such very simple Salvist formula. But the Salvist formula is incomplete because there exists modal formula, for example, this one, McKinsey formula plus the formula corresponding to transitivity, which correspond to a first order condition. But it has been proved that this formula is not equivalent to any Salvist formula. And it is not a surprise because, as proved by Lilia Shagrova 30 years ago in her thesis, in her doctoral thesis, the first order definability problem is undecidable. That is to say, there is no algorithm which can determine for every modal formula given as an input whether this modal formula is equivalent, correspond to some first order elementary conditions. And they lack to prove to use such a frame that we have. If you have followed last week my course on unification, you have already seen some variant of it. The variant here is denoted by this sequence of points, and this point which should be still irreflexive. So it is a transitive frame, all points are irreflexive, and it is connected to some accessibility problem in the context of Minsky machines, which is of course undecidable. Now, the modal definability problem, there is a characterization of modally definable elementary conditions. A first order sentence, it comes from Goldblatt and Thomason, it is a classical. A first order sentence A is modally definable if it is preserved under taking either disjoint union of Kripke frame, generated subframe of a Kripke frame, or bounded morphic image of Kripke frame. What does it mean, for example, to be preserved under taking bounded morphic image? It means if there is a Kripke frame which realizes the first order sentence A, then every bounded morphic image of this Kripke frame also realizes the first order sentence A. But as it is, this characterization, and also A should reflect ultrafilter extensions. As it is, such a characterization of modal definability does not immediately give us an algorithm to decide modal definability. So some people, in different articles, for example, Stanislav, have done with Zolin, some 6 years ago, they have considered a fragment of the first order language, and they have used some graph theoretic argument to determine if the given formula, it is a restricted fragment, correspond to a modal formula. And it is not a surprise that the modal definability problem is difficult to decide because, in fact, as proved again by Lilia Shagrova, it is undecidable. And to prove it, she has used a similar kind of transitive, irreflexive frame determined by some Minsky machine. So I have three goals. The first goal is to give, yes, let me remark something. For example, with respect to modal definability, to prove that modal definability is undecidable, it has been used such a transitive irreflexive frame, and then an immediate question, at least immediate for me, is to ask, is it still undecidable to determine modal definability of a given first order sentence when we restrict the class of frame? For example, the Shagrova theorem, this one, it is with respect to the class of all frame. But if we restrict the class of frame, for example, let us consider the class of all reflexive transitive frame or the class of all symmetric frame, is it still undecidable to decide modal definability. But since in the proof there is the use of such a transitive irreflexive frame, it seems difficult at first sight and even at second sight to extend Chagrova theorem to restricted class of frames. We were lucky in Toulouse to have the visits of Lilia Chagrova and also Alexander Chagroff since the 2003. It was in the autumn, maybe, together, of course, with other colleagues from this city, and also together with Tinko Tinchev and Dimitar Vakarelov, within the context of an international project. And Tinko and Lilia, they have tried, during their visit in Toulouse, to extend this undecidability result to restricted class of frames, and their success was small. In fact, it was not a success at all. It was difficult still in that time. So I have a goal here. It is to provide an alternative proof of Chagrova's theorem. In fact, the second theorem, because the first theorem, which is about undecidability of first-order definability of modal formula, I believe it is the most difficult of the two theorems. The second goal is to determine if Chagrova's theorem, the second, still holds for restricted class of Kripke frame. And then, if it does not hold, and we will see it does not hold for very simple classes of frames, to find natural classes of frames for which one of the two definability problems is decidable and the other is undecidable.
So problem 2 is about modal definability of first order sentences.
The Chagrova theorem number 2 is the undecidability of modal definability. Mm-hmm. Given a first order sentence, does it correspond to a modal formula? I believe it is, for me, it is the simplest one. I don't know if everyone will agree, because to prove that the undecidability of the first order definability of a given modal formula, there is the proof uses ultra product. It is some such tools of models coming from model theory. The second Chagrova theorem, in its proof, does not use such model theoretic construction. So this is our three goals. So let us address the first one. So to be ready with the syntax, but I think I will be fast on these slides, I consider the ordinary syntax, again, the ordinary semantic of modal logic, and the classical truth condition. Again, Greek letters denotes modal formula, and a frame together with evaluation is like a Kripke model. Possible word I will denote by letter S, T, etc. With respect to the first, yes, this is the global truth, the validity in a frame, and as an example, such a formula is valid in a reflexive frame, and this one in a transitive frame. Now, for the first order language, it is based only on one binary predicate corresponding to the accessibility relation. A formula of this first order formula like this will be interpreted in frames. And of course, if a formula contains some free variable, before we give a truth value to it in a frame, we have to interpret this free variable. So a tuple of variable I denote like this, and a tuple of possible word, which will be the interpretation of this variable, I denote like this. I will always assume that the length of this tuple and this one are the same, of course. And the truth condition of first order formula in a frame are given with respect to such interpretation. It is standard, but since the notation, maybe you are not used to them. So for example, this atom is true in F when we interpret the variable in X bar by the possible word in S bar, even only if the ith S is related to the gist S. Okay. And validity, a formula is valid in a frame if it is true for every possible interpretation of its free variable. There is positive example of correspondence between modal formula and first order condition. Let us interest, for example, this modal formula. It is axiom 5 in the classic standard way to give a name to modal axiom. And it corresponds to the property to be Euclidean relation. A binary relation is Euclidean if, for every possible, a binary relation of a frame is Euclidean if for every possible word, if this possible word can access other possible word, these two, they can see each other by means of the binary relation. So this is the fifth axiom, and it belongs to modal logic S5. But there is a negative example of modal of first order definability and modal definability. For example, McKinsey formula, Loeb formula. There is no first elementary condition corresponding to them. And the elementary condition of irreflexivity, for example, is well known to correspond to no modal axiom. So these two Chagrova theorem, and the purpose is to give a new proof of the second one. Provide an alternative proof of Chagrova theorem. In fact, it is remarkably simple. It is known, I don't know who is the first, maybe Kalmar, but Kalmar is not the first. Kalmar, the validity problem in first order logic. Church or, okay, thank you. Maybe it was 1 year before, 36. But Kalmar has proved that it is possible to reduce the validity problem for a first language containing at most a predicate of arity2. It is possible to reduce this validity problem to the validity problem when the language contains exactly one predicate of arity2. So, and this is the one we interest because our first order language contains equality and exactly one predicate of arity2. And so the validity problem for us on the first order logic side is undecidable. So if we can prove this theorem, then it will be, we will obtain Chagrova theorem as a corollary. If we can prove that the validity problem in our first order language, based on exactly one predicate of arity2, if we can prove this problem is reducible to the modal definability problem, then the two theorem give to us the corollary that modal definability is undecidable. So let us do it. But before doing it, I will introduce another I don't know if it is standard, but I believe it is known since Gödel has used it a long time ago, for example. I don't remember for which topic, but it is the notion of relativization of a first order formula. Take a first order formula A and some variable x. And it is like a translation. And we will associate to any first order formula of our language another formula. So I assume that the formula that we will translate has no common variable with A and X. I think it is possible to eliminate this restriction, but to be more relaxed, let us assume that the formula that we will translate has no common variable free or not free with A or X. And then you see the translation is transparent for atomic formula. And for the Boolean connective, it is also transparent. We don't change at all. Just the quantification in the translated formula, the universal quantification on Y is guarded by the formula that we obtain from A when we replace each free occurrence in A of X each free occurrence of x in A by y. So for example, when we translate this formula for all y, it is a seriality condition. For all y, there exists z such that ryz. Just there is this guard when all free occurrences of x in A are replaced by y, and this guard with the existential quantification. I think it is
maybe even earlier than Gödel.
Yes, it is a very standard. So what to do with this notion of relativization? There is a corresponding notion. It is the notion of to reduce the reduction of a frame. Let us take a Kripke frame F and a first order formula A with some tuple of variable and another variable. So here maybe it is empty or there is only one or two, but it is fixed. And let us take a tuple S bar of possible word in F. Of course, S bar has the same length as the length of this tuple of variable in A. And then the restriction of the frame F, we will say it is the set of all possible words S such that when x is interpreted by S and x bar by the S bar, then F satisfies A. So it is also a relatively simple condition. We skip in F only those points S such that when we interpret x by S and x bar by S bar, F satisfies it. Of course, this restriction is really a frame if it exists such a at least one S satisfying this condition, because otherwise it will be the empty frame and we want the set of possible words always to be non-empty. So this restriction of F is really a frame if F satisfies this first order condition. For example, if we take any frame and the formula R is this one, so it means that the tuple x bar is restricting to x1. And if S1 is a possible word in F, then the restriction, the reduct of the frame F consists of all those possible words which are different from S1. And so it exists only if and only if F contains at least 2 points. So it exists if there exists another point than S1. So
maybe the term reduct here is not very well chosen because in first order logic it suggests a restriction of the signature, not the restriction of the...
I am not responsible. You should ask that guy,
Okay.
because there is a big book on model theory,
It's a big authority.
and it is maybe in chapter 5 or 7, okay? So there is, we have seen the relativization of a formula. It is this translation. We have seen what is the reduct of a frame F with respect to such a formula and a tuple S bar. And now there is the relativization theorem. If we start from a frame F, and F prime is the reduct of F with respect to such formula A and some tuple S bar. So F prime is the reduct of F. So F prime have been obtained by eliminating from F all those possible words S such that when X is interpreted by S and X bar by S bar, F does not satisfy A. Then for all formula C, first order formula C with some free variable, and for all tuple T bar in F prime, in the reduct of F, of course the dimension of Y bar and T bar being the same, these two conditions are equivalent. And these two conditions, it means that C is true in F prime when Y bar is interpreted by T bar, if and only if, in F, the reduct of C with respect to the A, the relativization of C with respect to A and X is true in F. It is not difficult to prove the equivalence between these two conditions. It is done, of course, by induction on the formula C. Here, of course, I am very to be safe, I recommend to consider that the variable in C are disjoint from the variable in A. Because, in fact, we don't need, we can rename. Okay, we will use this theorem. And now let us apply our first goal. Let us solve our first goal, reach the goal. And let us reduce the validity problem in our first order language to the modal definability problem. Okay, it is a reduction, so we have to start from a first order sentence. We have to associate to it another first order sentence, and we have to prove that C is valid as a first order sentence in the class of all frame, if and only if D is modally definable with respect to the class of all frame. So there is a first claim to prove that the validity of C implies the modal definability of D. And next slide, we will prove the converse claim. Okay, let us do by contradiction. Suppose D is not modally definable. So remark D, what it says. It says that there exists a point. So D is a sentence. It contains no free variable, because C also is a sentence. So this one will be a sentence. And since X is quantified here and X1 here, D is a sentence. D is saying that there exist 2 points which are different, X1 and X. And for this X1, something is false, the relativization of C with respect to this formula. And remark that the formula which is here, with respect to which C is relativized, is equal to this formula. So it is important. So let us prove the first claim. Suppose D is not modally definable. It means that there exists a frame which satisfies D as a first order sentence. Why it exists such a frame? Because if such a frame does not exist, it means that D is false as a sentence in every Kripke frame. But if a sentence is false in every Kripke frame, then it corresponds to the modal logic false, to the modal logic formula false. And since we have assumed that D is not modally definable, then there exists such a frame F. Okay, F satisfies D. It means that there exists in the frame F some point, possible word S1, such that when X1 is interpreted by S1, this is true. And this is false because of the negation here. Okay, F satisfies this existential formula when X1 is interpreted by S1. There exists such a light. It is practical. So it means that it is possible to obtain the reduct of F with respect to the formula X1 different from X and with respect to S1. So let F prime be the reduct of F with respect to this formula and with respect to S1. And it exists because F satisfies this existential formula. It is non-empty. So it is the reduct. If you remember the Hodge theorem, in fact, it is not Hodge theorem, but it is in the book of Hodges. Since F does not satisfy the relativization of C with respect to this formula when X1 is interpreted by S1, then F prime does not satisfy C. It is just the theorem of Hodges I have remarked. And therefore, C is not valid in F prime, is not true in F prime, and it is not valid. The converse. We want to prove that the modal definability of D implies the validity of C. Suppose C is not valid. It means there exists a frame F0 in which C is false. C is a sentence. So this is F0. And then I consider an irreflexive point And this is the frame F1. F1 is a frame, just one irreflexive point. And then I consider F2 to be the disjoint union on F0 and F1. So this is this line. Obviously, F1 does not satisfy D, mainly because of that part. To satisfy D, it is needed to have at least 2 points. F1 has exactly 1 point, so F1 does not satisfy D. And F2 satisfies this formula because F2 being the disjoint union of two frames, it contains at least 2 points. By the relativization theorem, since F0 does not satisfy C, also we can remark that F0 is the reduct of F2 with respect to this formula and this interpretation of X1, because F0 is the restriction of F2 to the set of all points S which are different from S1. So F0 is the reduct of F2. Since F0 does not satisfy C, by the relativization theorem, F2 does not satisfy this one. Since F2 satisfies this one, we have already seen, then F2 satisfies D, because D is exactly what we need. So F2 is the disjoint union of F0 and F1. F1 does not satisfy D because F1 is a singleton. Therefore, D cannot be modally definable, because if D were modally definable, to be if any modal formula is preserved when we take the validity of it is preserved when we take the generated subframe of a given frame. So if the fact that F1, which is the generated subframe of F2 starting from S1, does not satisfy D, implies that D is not modally definable. Okay, this is proved. The Shagrova theorem by means of this reduction, because the validity problem is undecidable thanks to Kalmar, and we have shown that D is modally definable if and only if C is valid. So the first goal is reached, and now let us see if we can do the same for.
Nice proof.
Thank you.
So much simpler than the picture of the frame.
Because
What's the original proof? Did it contain any specific frames?
of Lilia Shagrova,
Of Shagrova.
it contains the transitive irreflexive frame that I have shown at some point.
For the second theory.
So the embedded Minsky machines
Minsky machine.
directly
She is using.
instead of embedded interpretation.
So I believe in Kalmar's proof there should be some.
Of course, we are using the fact that the validity in a first-order language with exactly one binary predicate is undecidable, but it comes from the Kalmar.
Yes, and he uses the encoding of Turing machines or whatever.
I don't know.
Probably a reduction. He uses a reduction to.
It is in German.
Interpretation of general logic into this one probably, and general logic is.
Probably arithmetic. Yes. Church's proof was by interpreting arithmetic, and then you need to simulate many predicates by a single one.
Predicates by
Single
so
one.
this is Kalmar, yes. In fact, Trachtenbrot used the direct interpretation. Yes, so that was essentially.
But there is one question, may I ask at this point?
Yes.
That there is another notion of model definability. That a formula, a more general one, that the formula is definable by a set of. First, the formula is definable by a set of model formulas, not a single one.
Yes, I think in their paper they are using such a notion. I am not familiar with this
Should be
generalized.
understandable either.
I don't know. I am not familiar with this generalized, so to say, definition. Is it like this, what you have defined? A first order formula sentence corresponding to a finite set of modal formula.
No, infinite.
Infinite.
It's a different question. I think it's about, you can raise a question about definability by a single modal formula or by an infinite set of modal formulas.
So different.
These are different questions.
Okay, now we are addressing our second goal. Still, it was in fact the first question to Lilia by Tinko and me, how to prove the undecidability of the modal definability problem if we consider restricted class of frames, for example, the class of all reflexive symmetric frame. So here we will consider correspondence, first order definability, and modal definability with respect to a class C of frame. Consider a class C of frame, for example, the class of all partial order or the class of all reflexive Kripke frame. We can generalize the property that a modal formula and a first order sentence correspond by saying that for all frame in the class, the frame validates the modal formula if and only if it satisfies the sentence. To be first order definable with respect to the class C, so a modal formula is first order C definable if it exists a first order sentence which corresponds to it with respect to this class. For example, now the McKinsey formula corresponds to this condition, elementary condition, but once we restrict the discussion to the class of all transitive frame. So the first order definability problem is given a modal formula to determine if it corresponds to a first order condition with respect to the class C. And the modal definability is generalized also in this way. We will say that a first order condition is modally definable with respect to C if it exists a modal formula which corresponds to it with respect to that class. For example, this is a first order condition, and it is not modally definable with respect to the class of all total preorders. I am ready to show this one, but I believe it is not an obligation. If you're interested, I can talk with you later. I don't know why I have chosen this example. And the modal definability problem, when we restrict the discussion to the class C of frame, to some class, is given a first order condition A to determine if it exists a modal formula corresponding to it with respect to the class C. Okay, how we will try to generalize Shagrova theorem, the second theorem of Shagrova, to restricted class of frame. We know that the validity problem, thanks to Kalmar, the validity problem for our first order language is undecidable. But there is a lot of class of frames for which the same validity problem is also undecidable. So for many class of frame, validity of our formula coming from our first order language is also undecidable. For example, Church and Quine, they have interested with the class of all symmetric frame, Tarski with the class of all partial order, etc. So our strategy is, if we fix some class of frame, to try to reduce the validity problem of our first order language with respect to this class to the modal definability problem with respect to the same class. And I try. It will not be a success all the time, of course, because there is some class of frame for which the modal definability problem, we will show it is decidable. So as a corollary of this, and if we succeed this, then if validity in the class C is undecidable, and if validity with respect to C is reducible to modal C definability, then we will have obtained the undecidability of the modal definability problem with respect to the class C. So, and I'm sure some people will say that stable is not the right name for this condition. Because stable, probably it exists in mathematics in many parts. But it does not matter. Let us use it for the remaining minutes that we are together. I will define what it means for a class of frame to be stable. I was starting to write it, but in fact I will write because it is nice to remember this information. A class of frame is stable if there is a creative, to show that a class of frame is stable, there is a creative part. There is two creative parts. Each time it is because it should exist something. There exists. It should exist a formula A, a first order formula A with some tuple of free variable and one free variable x. And it should exist a sentence B. Remember that A and B, first order formula, they belong to our first order language based on equality and a binary predicate of arity 2. So it should exist such a formula and sentence B, such that for every frame F in the class, there is two conditions. For every tuple S bar in F, S bar the same dimension as this X bar. If F satisfies this existential condition, and you remember that if F satisfies this condition, then it is possible to calculate. It is possible to reduce F to some frame F prime by restricting its possible word. So when F satisfies this condition, and for all S bar in F such that F satisfies this condition, the reduct of F with respect to A and S bar belongs to the class. This is the first condition. And probably the word stability I can motivate by means of this first condition, because here there is no at all stability. And second condition, so still for all frame F in C, this universal quantification is for both conditions. For all frame F in C, it should exist two frames, F prime and F second in C, and it should exist a tuple S bar in F prime such that F is the reduct of F prime with respect to this formula and S bar. F prime satisfies the sentence B, not F second. And for arbitrary modal formula phi, if F prime validates phi as a Kripke frame, then F second validates phi. So here you see that we are doing what we want to do, what we would like to do, because here, if some formula is modally definable, this formula should include B, because since F prime makes B true but not F second, and F second validate all modal formula that F prime validate, there is some hiddenly something connected to modal definability. So let me take 1 minute to write on the blackboard this one, and then I will no. So for all S bar in F if F satisfies this existential condition, then the reduct of F with respect to A and S bar is in the class. And second condition, there are two frames, F prime and F second, in C, and a tuple in F prime such that F is the reduct of F prime with respect to A and S bar. F prime satisfy B, F second does not satisfy B, and for all modal formula phi, if F prime validate phi, then F second validate phi.
This is F second in the first item. F second is the deductive of pi, right? Or is it F? It's F second. It's better. No. In the first item, it should be F second. No. Or is it, should it be F?
There is a mistake?
I don't know.
I think I have repeated exactly the same. Here it is F prime, here it is F prime, F second, F prime, F second.
And
No,
F is universally quantified. Okay.
Yes, but there is no contradiction because for all F in the class, it should exist two other frames satisfying the four conditions. Okay, this is the stability.
So this formula B, it is chosen uniformly before we choose F prime and F double prime.
Yes, the stability condition of the class C, we should determine for the good formula that will help us to prove the stability. So it should exist such sentence B and such formula A, such that for all frames, the two conditions are satisfied. Remark that if a frame belongs to a class of frame, the class of frame being determined by a universal first-order property, for example, reflexivity, transitivity, the class of all transitive frame, if a frame belongs to that class, then every reduction of that frame also belongs to the class. Universal conditions are preserved by such a reduction. So if the class of frame C is universal, it means it is determined by a set of universal elementary conditions, then C satisfies the first order condition defining stability, and it does not matter with respect to which A and B it will satisfy, because we are talking about reduction. The first condition of stability says that for every F and every S bar satisfying this condition, the reduct of F with respect to A and S bar is in the class. But if the class is universal, the reduct will of course belongs. And the second proposition is interested by the second condition. Suppose that the class C is closed undertaking disjoint union, generated subframes, bounded morphic image. then the class C satisfies the second condition, which is here, defining stability, with respect, for example, to this choice of A and this choice of B. It is just to give an example of a situation, a class of frame, and it is not unusual to have a class of Kripke frame which is closed under taking disjoint union, generated subframes, and bounded morphic image. For example, the class of all Kripke frame is of that kind, of course. Let us prove that the second condition holds if the class satisfies this closure condition. Okay. What we have to do? Let a frame be in C, because we have to show something for all frame F in C. We have to show there exist two frames, F prime and F second, in the class, such that the four conditions are satisfied. There is two cases. And I will show only one case, because the other case is very similar. Suppose F contains a dead end. A dead end is a possible word in F which possesses no successor. So suppose there is such a dead end. There is many points, maybe, and there is a point without successor by the accessibility relation of F. Let me put a new point, S1. S1. And this is F prime. I will call it S prime 1. And this one, and this is F double prime. So now we have two frames, F prime and F double prime. Are there in C? This one, it is easy to say that it is in the class C, because we have seen that F contains a dead end. But then the generated subframe from that point, let us call it S. The generated subframe of F from that point S is equal to F second, well, equal, isomorphic. And since the class C is closed under taking generated subframe, then this frame belongs to the class. But since F belongs to the class and this frame belongs to the class, and since the class is closed under taking disjoint union, then the F prime, which is the disjoint union of F and F second, also belongs to the class. So both frames are in the class. Now we will take, it is also clear that the frame F is the reduct of F prime with respect to this formula when we interpret x1 by S prime 1, because F is just the set of all points in F prime which are different from this one. So F is the reduct of F prime. F prime satisfies the sentence B, because obviously F prime contains at least 2 points. It contains this point and this one. But F second does not satisfy the sentence B, because F second consists of exactly 1 point. So in the case when F does not contain a dead end, it means F is serial. It is exactly the same argument, except that here we should take a reflexive point. Okay. So example of classes of frame which are stable. Can you say how many minutes I have still?
No, at least 30 minutes.
At least?
At least.
At least. 30.
Not at most.
At most. It is a non-standard answer to say at least. So let us see the class, for example, the class of all. I will not show the class of all frame. I will show the stability of the class of all reflexive frames. Yes, the class of all reflexive frame is stable. Pardon, let me go back with respect to the result saying that the class of all frame is stable. It is possible to prove stability by using such formula for A and such sentence for B. For the class of all reflexive frame, another formula A and another sentence are needed. This is the creative aspect of to show that a class of frame is stable. Sometimes it is not easy to find the appropriate formula. So here we consider the class of all reflexive frame. The class of all reflexive frame is universal. To be a reflexive relation is a universal condition. So there is no need to interest with the first condition. It will be preserved. It will be true. Now let us take F in the class of all reflexive frame. And F prime is obtained from F by adding 3 points, S prime, T prime, and U prime. This is F prime. And the accessibility relation in F prime, so F prime contains F as a subframe. S prime can see all possible words in F. And T and U can see each other. And they can see S prime. And of course, I want the relation to be reflexive. So I assume each of the 3 new points to be reflexive. And F second it will contain a copy of F and only one new reflexive point. So this is a reflexive point which can see all points in F. So is F the reduct of F prime with respect to S prime? What is saying the formula here? This formula says that if we interpret x1 by S prime, we should keep all point x which are accessible from x1, that is to say S prime, but which are different from it. So if we do this one, we will keep only those points. Because these ones are not concerned. They are not accessible from S prime. S prime itself is not concerned because it is equal to itself. So we will keep only this one, and F is the reduct. So F is the reduct of F prime. F prime satisfies B. What is saying B? B is saying that every point possesses a predecessor which is different from this point. For every y, there is a predecessor of y different from y. Of course, F second does not satisfy this B because S second does not possess any predecessor, except itself, of course. But in F prime, S prime possesses 2 predecessors. And the last condition, every modal formula which is valid in F prime is valid in F second. It is true because this point being reflexive, F second is a bounded morphic image of F prime. For this reason, it is needed to have this one. These two, of course, maybe I can eliminate and make T prime reflexive, but if I do like this, T prime will not have a predecessor distinct from itself. So for this reason, it was needed to put 2 points. So the class of all reflexive frame is stable. And for the class of all symmetric frame, you see it is a little bit more complex. But, and not only it is needed to find the appropriate A and the appropriate B, but also it is needed to find for any F the appropriate extension F prime that will do the job. Also, I am ready to prove this. The class of all symmetric frame is stable, but we have some job to finish. And now, to obtain a variant of Shagrova theorem about the undecidability of modal definability, we need first to reduce the validity problem in our first order language with respect to a certain class C, which is supposed to be stable, with respect to the modal definability problem with respect to the same class. So I assume that C is a stable class of frame, and it is stable because of this first order formula and this first order sentence. And stability is like this. To reduce the validity problem to the modal definability problem, we will do as just 10 minutes before. Given a first order sentence C, it is needed to associate to it another first order sentence, and it will be this one. So you see it has similarity with respect to the one we have seen before. Before, this part was not existing, and here it was x1, and here it was x1 different from x, here and here. So in some sense, this D generalizes the formula that we have seen before when we have reduced validity in the class of all frame to modal definability with respect to the class of all frame. And the claim is that validity of a formula with respect to the class C, of the sentence C with respect to the class C, is equivalent to the modal definability of D. And the proof is very similar to the one I have shown when C was the class of all Kripke frame. I propose to show just one direction of it. And if you're interested by the other direction, you can read the paper. Do I need this one?
But basically, it should be similar to the proof you already gave.
Yes, yes. I will be fast for the one direction. Suppose D is not C modally definable. If the first order sentence D were false in every frame of the class C, it would imply that D is modally definable by false. So, since D is not modally definable, it means that let F, there exists a frame in the class such that F satisfies the condition D. So it means in particular that there exists a tuple S bar such that F satisfies when X bar is interpreted by S bar, and F does not satisfy the relativization of C when X bar is interpreted by S bar. And we have almost immediately the result. This condition, it implies that the reduct of f with respect to A and S bar exists. It is non-empty. So let f prime be the reduct of f with respect to A and S bar. By means of the first condition of stability, f prime belongs to the class, because all reduct of a frame in a class C belongs to the class C. Then, by the relativization theorem, f prime does not satisfy C. And therefore, C is not valid. So we have proved the left to right direction. The other direction is also very similar to the proof I have done before. And now we can obtain as a corollary a new variant of Chagrova theorem about modal definability, because it is known that validity in the following class of frame is undecidable. For example, the class of all reflexive frame, the class of all transitive frame, the class of all reflexive symmetric frame, the class of all partial orders. For example, Church and Quine, they have been interested in the class of all symmetric frame. Rogers, the class of all reflexive symmetric. Tarski, the class of all partial order and lattices. But it is not the end of the story, because to know that validity in this class of frame is undecidable is not enough to conclude that modal definability with respect, for example, to the class of all symmetric frame is undecidable. It is needed to show that this class is stable or this class is stable. But we have seen some example, for example, the class of all reflexive frame, that it is stable. And therefore, we obtain as a corollary the undecidability of modal definability with respect to these classes of frames. Okay, we have obtained our second goal. And now we will try to show the third goal. Is it possible for some classes of frames, and it will be possible in some example, to show that modal definability is decidable and first order definability is undecidable, or the other direction. So the first question that we have asked was the class of all partition. What happens if we restrict to the class of all frames in which the accessibility relation is satisfied this condition, which means is an equivalence relation? What happens if the class of all frame is the class of all partitions? It is well known that it corresponds to the modal logic S5, which is it possesses a very interesting property, the small model property. Satisfiability is NP complete. All normal extensions are known. And for example, all formula is probably equivalent to a formula of modal degree at most 1. So it is a very good modal logic in terms of the simplicity of its property. And there is another class of frames that I want to consider, the class of all total preorders. So it should be a preorder. And total, it means that if 2 points are different, then they are comparable. In fact, such a frame is a linear system of clusters. You can see like this, a linear system of clusters. And it corresponds to the modal logic S4.3, which is axiomatized by this axiom. And it has also good properties, small model properties, satisfiability is NP complete. And all normal extensions of it are known and characterized. So what happens to the modal definability problem and first order definability problem with respect to the class of all partitions and with respect to the class of all total preorders? Just to start. Okay. This is another proof, but there is a proof by authority. There is a remark in Van Bentham PhD thesis, and in fact it is also explained in one of the book, Classical Logic and Modal Logic, I believe. A remark of Van Bentham saying that every modal formula of depth at most 1 is first order definable. Van Bentham does not, in his remark, does not interest to S5 or to the class of all partition. It is a general remark about modal formula. If a modal formula is of modal depth at most 1, it means there exists not 2 levels of modality in this formula, then it is first order definable with respect to the class of all frames and therefore with respect to all class of frame. And this is a specific case with respect to S5.
Plus C par, what was it, the definition of C par?
To be a partition, to be a partition. Huh? The S5 frames, to the S5 frames. In fact, such a frame is a set of clusters. This is what it means. It is to be reflexive, transitive, and Euclidean, each cluster being an equivalence class with respect to the accessibility relation. So frames of this class are sets of clusters, and frames of this class are sets of clusters linearly ordered.
Okay.
And it corresponds, this one, to S4.3. It is a standard.
Okay, so what we are claiming about this?
No, I am claiming, but in fact, I have written the proof to show that I am clever. But in fact, this proof can be replaced by the remark of Van Bentham, because in S5, in the class of all partition, that is to say, when we consider modal logic S5, every modal formula is provably equivalent to a modal formula of modal depth at most 1. And therefore, by the remark of Van Bentham, such modal formula is first order definable. And therefore, in this class of frames, C par, every modal formula is first order definable. So first order definability with respect to this class is a trivial problem. Every modal formula is first order definable. And we have proved that the other problem is p-space complete. I will not explain it. I am not able at the moment to explain why, because as you see, the paper is quite old. It is not difficult. In fact, we reduce the modal definability problem to the validity problem in the first order theory of one equivalence relation with equality. And it follows, it is known since Stockmeyer from the 1977 maybe, that the first order theory of equality, just equality, is p-space complete, the validity or satisfiability problem of it. And to put equality symbol plus one equivalence relation, it is also p-space complete, and we reduce the modal definability problem to the validity in this class of frames. With respect to setot, I am ready also to give the argument, but it is a little bit long. And in fact, this one is very long. Well, and it is also very recent, so I am not ready to present it in an understandable way. And this one, I will present a similar result with respect to the class of all Euclidean frames. So, with respect to the linear order of clusters, so setot is a frame is in this class if it is a set of clusters linearly ordered. Every modal formula is first order definable, and modal definability is decidable. But this time we believe non-elementary way or with a high complexity. Of course, we interest in the class of all partitions. They are the frame validating S5, but there is also the modal logic KD45, when instead of transitivity, we have seriality. It is also a very good modal logic with good properties. There is also K45 when we just consider the frames which are transitive and Euclidean. It is still a modal logic in which, for example, every modal formula is equivalent to a formula of modal depth at most 1. And there is K5, which is the class of all Euclidean frame, and it corresponds to this modal logic. And still, satisfiability is NP complete, small model property. It is known, for example, since Nagel and Thomasson that if a formula is K5 consistent, then it is satisfied in a model the size of which we can put a bound on it. And so all good property of S5, well, at least this one, they are preserved for this logic KD45, K45, and K5. Together with Dimitar Georgiev, which was a PhD student of Tinko Tinchev in that time, it is not difficult to prove that every modal formula is the first order definable with respect to this class of frame. And in fact, it is just needed to prove first order definability with respect to this class because this class includes the other. So I'm proposing to show this one, to show that every modal formula is first order definable with respect to the class of K5. And I think it is a quite standard proof. I don't know. So what are the frame? What is this class of frame? There exists several kinds. There exists one irreflexive point. This is one possible frame of this one. There exist so irreflexive points. There exist clusters. This is another possible frame for belonging to this class. There exists frame consisting of one irreflexive point, and this point can see a cluster, can see some point, and this other point belongs to a cluster. Of course, there is the variant when that part is empty. So here, an irreflexive point. Here, a cluster of points. All can see each other. And here, there is irreflexive point, which can see a non-empty set of points. And this non-empty set of points belongs to a larger cluster. And by the small model property of K5, we can restrict to models of that kind which are finite. So each frame of that kind which is finite, we can represent it in a precise way. For example, if there is 3 points here, we will represent it by the model which contains no irreflexive point and which contains 3 points. This one, it will be correspond to another symbolic expression. It is not from us. It exists since maybe Nagel and Thomasson in the middle of the 1980s. So we can define what I will call types. A types is some symbolic expression which represent one of these frames. And for each type, it corresponds to a finite K5 frame F sigma with some root. For example, we will say the root is this one, or is this one. And also it is possible in our first order language with exactly one binary predicate to associate to every frame of that kind a first order formula, A sigma, with one free variable x, such that the frame F corresponding to sigma in this list satisfy this formula with respect to the root. This is the root. And for all frame in the class, and for all possible word S in the frame, if F satisfies A sigma when X is interpreted by S, then this frame is a bounded morphic image of F. So in a way, this formula characterizes the frame F sigma up to a bounded morphism. And it is also possible to arrange it in such a way that for all modal formula phi and for all frame F in the class, there exists a type which such that, here I have forgotten to say that the frame F should not validate phi. I assume that the frame F, if the frame F does not validate phi, then there exists such a type, that is to say such a finite frame, which is the size of it is bounded by the size of the formula. The frame F sigma associated to it does not validate phi, and F satisfies this condition, which will give us this part. And now for all formula phi, we associate to it the first order sentence, this one, and it is possible in a quite easy way to prove that this first order sentence corresponds to the formula phi. In the class of K5 it is done like this, but I think it is relatively standard. Or it appears in a different way, but almost the same. And with respect to the modal definability problem, this has been proved in a way similar to the proof that modal definability with respect to the class of all S5 model is p-space complete. And this one was quite a surprise, especially if we know that modal logic K5 as a modal logic has very similar property to S5, KD5, K45. It is satisfiability is NP complete. Every modal formula is not equivalent to a modal formula of modal depth at most 1, but of modal depth at most 2. There is finite model small model property, normal extension are known, but this was relatively a surprise. And the proof is as follows. So modal definability with respect to the class of all K5 frame is undecidable. I will not give the detail, just the sketch of it. By Rogers, it is known that the validity of our first order language, when we consider the class of all reflexive symmetric frame, it is undecidable. It comes from this paper. And first, we have reduced the validity in the class of all reflexive symmetric frame to the validity problem in the class of all Euclidean frame. There is also a standard technique to interpret the accessibility relation from one frame here to another frame here, maybe to translate the first order formula. But it can be done. So, since there is such a reduction, so validity of our first order language in this class is undecidable. But it is not at the end of the proof, because in order to obtain the undecidability of modal definability, we have to show stability of this class of frame. And stability can be obtained by means of this formula and this sentence. This sentence says that there exist at least 2 points different and without any predecessor by the accessibility relation. And again, I'm ready to show the stability, but maybe there is no need. And therefore, validity is reducible to modal definability because of the stability. And consequently, modal definability with respect to this class of frame is undecidable. So we have obtained our third goal. There is a class of frame, namely this one, and it is a quite simple one, for which every modal formula is first order definable, but model definability is undecidable. So this is what we have done. We have provided a simpler proof of Shagrova theorem about model definability. We have shown that this theorem can be extended to other classes of frame thanks to the stability property of these classes. And we have found natural classes of frame for which, in that case, the class of all Euclidean frame, for which modal definability is undecidable, and for which first-order definability is trivial. Every modal formula is first-order definable. So this is almost all things that to make a recap of what I have said. When I said trivial, it means all modal formula are first-order definable with respect to this class of frames. So you see that when modal definability is decidable, it is about the class of all partitions, the class of all transitive Euclidean frame, the class of all total preorders, not this one and these three. When modal definability is decidable, you can see on this, but of course it is a finite set of modal logic, very finite. You can see the validity problem in the corresponding class of frame is decidable. The validity problem in the class of all partition is decidable. The validity problem in the class of our first-order language with one binary predicate plus equality. The validity problem in the class of all total preorder is decidable. We didn't know if it was known, so we have proved this one itself. It is not so difficult. So there is some problem. What about the Shagrova theorem number 1, which I have said I consider it more difficult? Is it possible to give a proof of the undecidability of the first-order definability problem of a given modal formula without using Minsky machine? Does this first Shagrova theorem still hold when we consider restricted class of frame? Except for such a specific class of frames, the answer is unknown. Yes, is it equivalent to say that a class of the validity problem with respect to a class C is decidable? Is it strongly connected? Is it equivalent to say that modal definability with respect to this class is decidable? Apparently, all decidability result here seems to imply this one, but we need to. And what happens if there is the universal modality or the difference modality? So here are some historical reference, and here very recent work of us, and thank you.
Questions?
For the difference logic.
With the just when the
difference,
box.
yes. Instead of quotations.
It will be something in this region.
Yes,
But,
something very
I don't know.
strange.
But you know, K5 is undecidable modal definability, so I don't know. That it is needed to see, is the validity problem for this class undecidable? I don't believe. But if it is, then is this class stable? So there is two consecutive if. It is difficult.
Okay, I have maybe two questions. First one is, so what about two equivalence relations for which we know that's a typical example of undecidable first-order theory?
Modal definability, yeah, it is stable, and the validity problem,
Is undecidable.
it is in our paper of 2 years ago. So modal definability is undecidable, but for some class of frames, here it is a bimodal frames. There is two accessibility relation. The modal language contains two accessibility relation, but it does not matter. We can adapt whatever. I don't remember, in fact, if it is for this class of frames, two equivalence relation, or we have also considered the class consisting of two relations, one equivalence relation and one total order. For one of these two classes, the stability technology was not immediately usable, applicable, and we had to adapt it specifically for this logic. It means that it is not a universal tool. It is not a universal instrument with which one should expect to be able to prove undecidability of modal definability. It is need to be adapted, especially in the case of two relations like this one, yes. But at the moment, I don't remember which one. You will see in the paper if you read.
Okay, so now the second question was the following one. So it's about this definition of stable class of models. So it is in some sense similar, has similar idea as these notions of like hereditarily undecidable first order theory that was used in this whole business of proving undecidability results by interpretations. So maybe, so the nature of your definition is like having a special kind of, interpretation, something like that. But I wonder if it can be somehow brought more in the spirit with these model theoretic notions that were developed in these early days of undecidability results. So basically, my recollection of that theory was that it all reduces to Trachtenbrod's basic results, and from then on you can, using this recursive inseparability, you obtain this notion of a first order theory which is hereditarily undecidable, meaning every sub-theory of this theory, so something in terms of classes of modes, it would mean that every superclass of this class is undecidable. Then if you can interpret that, then so maybe I mean your notion allows to some kind of
So you
generalization of this kind.
do you suggest to redefine the stability conditions?
Yeah,
Or?
so my question was basically about bringing this stability condition perhaps in a nicer and maybe more general form, whether it's possible or not, in some sense.
More,
Along these lines.
more to be a property of the class itself, not associated to some syntax.
Specific formula, relativizing formula, and something like that.
But in this case, when we reduce validity to modal definability, to each sentence C, we associate a sentence D. And the sentence D contains B and contains A with quantification, contains the relativization of C with respect to A. So I don't know.
Here in the second condition, there is it distinguishes model and first order case. You see that for every model this implies, but there is a first order which distinguishes that. So this is something special.
Sure. So I'm not saying that you can replace it by a simple condition like
Simple condition like
on the first order theory, but maybe in combination with, well, anyway, the feeling is that this can be improved somehow in terms of more abstraction and less.
And yes, there is something I have not mentioned, but it was already mentioned by Shagrov and Shagrova in different places. Here, it is not needed the modal language to be the full modal language. In fact, it is just needed the modal language to contain the false. Just let us restrict the modal language to false, and
You mean without variables?
without anything. And they have also such result in the setting of modal undecidability or modal definability. If the modal language is restricted, for example, to false, just one formula, false, it is still undecidable. And the same here, because in the proof that I have sketched the proof quickly, I have said, let us suppose that D is not modally definable. D is the sentence associated to the given input sentence C. Suppose that D is not modally definable. It means that there exists a frame satisfying D, because otherwise, the modal formula false would be a modal definition of D. And this is the only place where I am using explicitly the syntax of modal logic to say that there exists at least one formula. It can be P and not P, of course, or any formula which is not which is valid. Because here we quantified over all modal formulas. So, for example, here it is just needed F second to be the bounded morphic image of F, or F second to be a generated subframe of F, for example. This is one remark I have forgotten to mention. And also, maybe, I don't know if it is something to answer your suggestion. But for example, when we have used the undecidability, with respect to the class of all reflexive frame, we have proved it is stable. And we have also proved that the class of all reflexive frame has an undecidable validity problem. We have used the Tarski result about undecidability of the class of validity with respect to the partial order, and it implies automatically as a sub-theory the undecidability of validity for reflexivity, for example. But I believe it does not answer your question. Your question was to rephrase this one in a different way.
Well, one source of the simplification in this Tarski method of interpretations was that you use this not only the fact that your validity problem is undecidable, but rather that you deal with some kind of a theory every so this not really the existence of recursively enumerable undecidable problem, but rather the pair of recursively inseparable sets, which allows you to have a more general condition that every sub-theory of your theory is undecidable, which is very convenient because sometimes your interpretations, in a sense, do not have to be exact ones. You can go below, and then this is very convenient in some ways.
Okay.
But okay, this is a technical question.
No, it is a thank you.
May I ask you a question? What about the temporal logic? You have told that some results could be applied to multimodal logic. So what about temporal logic? Do you know any results about it?
No. But okay, I can say what happens with the universal modality, with the difference modality, and with the tense, the converse modality. Thank you. Oui?
I have a question about question marks in the table. Does it mean that the question is open? Or
Yes, it is about the first Shagrova theorem, undecidability, well, about first order definability. For example, if you consider the class of all reflexive frame, is the problem to determine if a given modal formula is first order definable? Is it, with respect to this class of frame, is it undecidable still? I don't know.
I think that I think that Lydia Chagrova, she considered this problem for intuitionistic logic, so probably all her frames were transitive and reflexive. No?
Intuitionistic logic, yes.
Yes, of course, it is. But
Why doesn't it
but
follow
here we
that
are talking about modal formula.
Yes. Would it imply immediately undecidability for modal formulas?
But there is also the upward condition on the valuation.
Probably the method can be applied.
Maybe. But
Happens when you consider standard translation of intuitionistic logic into a forward. That's what happens with model definability. Probably it's not preserved.
And what? It does not follow immediately. But probably the method can be applied for this case.
Suppose that over has 4 is decidable, then it would be decidable for intuitionistic because you can translate. No?
Forest 4. Forest 4 is the same. First order.
Okay, yeah, yes, maybe it's
It's
unclear.
not quite clear. No. Okay. There is also a group of questions if you restrict yourself to finite frames only.
yes,
The
we
same-
have done.
same-
We have done this one. For example, I don't remember if it is already in the Shagrova sets of result, but if you consider the class of all frame, so it is known, and the same for the class of all other class of frame. The class of all frame this set of formula and the set of all formula which are not valid in the class of all finite frame, these two sets are recursively inseparable. It is known since Vogt 1960, at least. And since this set is recursively enumerable, it implies that validity with respect to the class of all finite frame is co-recursively enumerable hard. I am speaking slowly because that part is Tinko's part, and I am remembering his argument. And therefore, since this class of frame is stable, it is needed to show stability. And it is, because in the argument that we have used to prove stability of the class of all frame, if you replace the class of all frame by the class of all finite frame, you can still prove stability, because remember, if you start from a finite frame, its reduction will be finite. And if we start from a frame F, this frame, if you remember, they consist just to add 1 point, 2 points, so they are still finite also. So the class of all finite frame is stable, and by the co-RE harness of the validity in the class of all frame, it shows that modal definability with respect to the class of all finite frame is co-R-E-hard. Voilà. And thanks to two other results, one is from Teitzlin, I don't know if I say correctly, from 1962, and the other from Lavrov, 1963. It is possible to do the same with respect to the class of all finite. I don't remember if it is reflexive, symmetric, or partial order. I don't remember. And in fact, I have never read this paper because they are written in Russian. And again, it is that part of TINCO to decode the content of these papers and to explain me. Okay.
So it's on the way.
For most class that we have, the class of all partial order, for many of them, I think there is also the finite version of it. Finite version of it. Okay, thank you.